How's it going, everybody? So today we're going to be talking about adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. And so we're going to talk about two different ways a lot of people like to do these type of operations. And basically, after seeing these two types, what you can go ahead and do is kind of develop, or choose the one that you personally like, and then just kind of run with it. So let's go over the adding part first. So let's do 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus x minus 7. And then we will add that with x cubed minus 10x squared plus 8. Okay? So the idea is we're going to be combining like terms, and we're looking for the terms or the variables that are the same. So for instance, variables that are the same here are the x cubed and this x cubed. And the idea is that you're not adding the powers necessarily, but you're adding the coefficients, the numbers in the front. And so basically this would be a 3, because that's the coefficient for the first one, plus a 1. So that would give me a 4x cubed, okay? Now the next one, all right, that I see that is the same is the squared. And I see the squared over here. So that means I'm going to add those coefficients together. So that is a 2 plus a negative 10. And that is going to be simply a negative 8x squared, okay? And then you'll notice, though, the x right here, he doesn't have anybody, and let me actually do a different color. He doesn't have anybody on that right-hand polynomial. It's, he's only present for the first one. So you will simply just write him as is, so you have your minus x. But there are some constants present. You have yourself a negative 7 and an 8. So those will combine. So a negative 7 plus an 8, that is a positive 1, okay? And so that right there, ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of how we do it horizontally. A lot of people will call this the horizontal method, where you basically just kind of add across, okay? And there are people who actually prefer to do it this alternative method, which is the vertical, where they'll basically line everything up. And so let me go ahead and kind of show what that looks like. Now, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't affect your answer at all, but it does organize things a lot differently. So you would have your 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus x minus 7. Now, doing it vertically means that I'm going to line up everything. So I've got my x cubed. I've got my minus 10x squared. I don't have an x, so I need a 0 placeholder. And then I have my plus 8. Now, you can see why people are kind of attracted to this method, because basically you add it very similar to how we've learned it in elementary school and even have done it, well through middle and high school. You just add them straight down. So you have 4x cubed minus 8x squared minus x and then plus 1. And as you can see, you end up with the same answer. It's just a matter of preference at this point, okay? And that right there is adding, okay? Now, in terms of subtracting, let's kind of talk about that. So say I did something like this right here. I had 2x cubed plus 6x squared minus x plus 1. And we're going to go ahead and minus that from the 8x cubed minus 3x squared minus 2x plus 9, okay? Now, looking at it horizontally, we can go ahead and do that still, but we got to make sure that we distribute this negative that's right here to each term, and it's going to change the sign, okay? So first, you need to make sure you do that. So we have a negative 8x cubed plus a 3x squared plus a 2x minus a 9. So that's going to drastically affect our answer when we go to combine. So let's first combine the cubes. So I have a cube here and a cube here. 2 minus 8, that's going to go ahead and give me a, negative 6x cubed. There we go. And then we have a squared here and a squared here. 6 plus 3, that's going to give me a 9. So we have plus 9x squared. And then I have a x. Okay, I do have an x. And I do have an x over here this time. So a negative 1 plus a 2, that's going to go ahead and give me a positive 1x. Okay. And then the next thing we have here is we're going to go ahead and do 1 minus 9. Okay, so 1 minus 9, and that's going to give me a negative 8. And so that's our answer. Now, we can go ahead and do the horizontal method. So that would look like this: 2x cubed plus 6x squared minus x plus 1. And then you have minus 8x cubed minus 3x squared minus 2x plus 9. And there you go. So everything's lined up. Now, the only thing you have to be careful of is a lot of students will forget that this negative has to be applied to all these numbers still. Like, don't forget that that is still a process, and don't just kind of do how we do with adding, where you just combine coefficients. Don't go and do 2 plus 8 is 10. Be careful. We know that's not the case from doing it horizontally. 2 minus 8 is what we're actually doing. So that would, of course, give us a negative 6x cubed. And then, of course, 6 minus a negative 3. Remember, that's plus. So we have a 9x squared. And then that turns that to positive, so we have a plus x. And then 1 minus 9, that's going to give us a negative 8. And so there you go. There's your answer. So either way for me, doesn't matter. I personally, as a preference, I prefer the vertical only because it keeps things organized for me. Whereas looking across things horizontally, I can kind of lose terms from time to time because they're just kind of mixed, you know, and they're not all nice and evenly stacked on top of each other. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is multiplication, okay? Now, when we multiply, there's a couple of ways to do it. So let's do this one, x minus 3. And then we have a negative x squared plus 2x plus 4. Okay, say we're multiplying this right here together, this polynomial. And what we're going to do first is a lot like the FOIL method. We're going to go and do x times x, negative x squared, the 2x, and the plus 4. So what that would give me is a negative x cubed. That would give me a 2x squared plus a 4x. Now I have to do the same thing, but with my negative 3 to each one of these terms. And so that's going to give me a plus 3x squared. That's going to give me a negative 6x, and then a minus 12. Now, looking at this right here, we're going to go ahead and combine like terms like when we did with adding and subtracting, okay? And notice there is nothing for the x cubed, negative x cubed to combine with, so we will leave it as is. But the 2x squared does have something to combine with. This right here can combine with this right here, the 3x squared. So that in turn is going to give me a 5x squared. And the same thing can be said for my 4x. This will combine with my negative 6x. So that will give me a negative 2x. But looking at this last and final one, though, I just have a constant, one constant, the minus 12. It's just going to tag on at the end because there's nothing to combine with. And so this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the answer when multiplying horizontally. Now, you can do it also vertically as well, and you just got to remember how to perform multiplication vertically, right? So let's go ahead and do so. We have negative x squared plus 2x plus 4, and then I have an x and then a minus 3. And let's go ahead and multiply. Now, looking at this, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and multiply the constant first to each one of those terms. So I'm going to do negative 3 times 4. That's negative 12. And better yet, I'll just put it right here, negative 12. And then I have negative 3 times 2x. That's negative 6x. And then negative 3 times a negative x squared. That's a 3x squared, okay? Now, remember when you do this multiplying process, you have to remember there's a 0 placeholder that gets put here, and then you can start multiplying the next term. So you would have x times 4, that is a 4x. X times 2x, that's going to give us a 2x squared. And then an x times a negative x squared is a negative x cubed, okay? And then, of course, you add these together, and you have a negative 12. Then you have yourself a minus 2x, a 5x squared, and then a negative x cubed. And so once again, you end up with the same answer as you did up here. And so that is the process for multiplying, okay? And there is one additional multiplication one that could throw people for a loop, is multiplying maybe 3 binomials together. And what that looks like is you have something like an x minus a 1, x plus a 4, and then an x plus a 5, okay? And so the idea is that when you just have simple factors like this, we call these binomials when it's just x plus or minus a number. And so you have to do it in stages, okay? You don't multiply it all at one time. There's stages in which you do it. I always work from left to right. So what I'm going to do is multiply my x's together, and then I'll do my -1 and my 4. So I'm going to first start with the first two binomials. So that's going to give me a x squared plus a 4x. And then, of course, a negative x and a -4, okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and combine terms here, and that's going to give me x squared plus 3x minus 4. Now, I'm going to bring down my other binomial, okay? I'm going to bring that down, and I'm now going to repeat the process and now multiply these together. Now, personally, I like to do the binomial times the polynomial, so I like to do my x like this because it's the way I did it on the first one. And so that would give me x cubed plus 3x squared, and then of course a -4x. Then I like to go ahead and do the 5, and that's going to give me a 5x squared plus a 15x minus 20. Now it's just a matter of combining the like terms, and we have x cubed. Okay, now these guys right here, the squareds, I can combine those. That's going to give me a 8x squared. Then I'm going to go ahead and combine the next set that I'll use a green. So the 4x and the 15x combine to give me a 11, right, x. But then the 20, he's kind of solo, right? And so I'm going to tag him on at the end. And we have a -20. Okay. And so this would be your answer. Now you could do the same process vertically as well, okay? You would just do it in stages, and you would do individual multiplications, right? So if we were to take a look at that, you would have yourself a, just to remind you, these binomials. You'd have x minus 1 times x plus 4. So you do 4 times -1 is -4. 4 times x is 4x. Remember, put a 0 after you go to the next one. So then you have x times -1 is -x. X times x is x squared. You're going to add those together, and that would give you -4. You'd have 3x and then x squared. Okay? Now, you're going to take this polynomial right here and multiply it to the other binomial, so x plus 5. So 5 times -4 is -20. 5 times 3x is 15x. 5 times x squared is a 5x squared. Now we move to the next term, and so that's going to create a 0 placeholder. So we have x times -4 is -4x. X times 3x is 3x squared. And x times x squared is x cubed. Notice how also when you end up doing the vertical process, everything lines up the way it's supposed to. The terms, for instance, the x's line up, the x squareds line up, and the x cubes would line up. That's how it should always work. So then we'd have 15 minus the 4. That's going to give us the 11x. Then we have 5 and the 3. That gives us 8x squared. And then, of course, our lone x cubed. And we have the same answer again. So it's up to you, like I said, and that is essentially what you will be working on your assignment today. If you have any questions on this, guys, please let me know. Great job today, and we'll start working on this more also tomorrow. Good luck, guys.